OutKick 360 is back alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Koharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. Glad you're with us wherever you're watching today. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. If you're listening on podcast, if you're watching on Rumble, we hope you'll subscribe. We hope you'll share and retweet today's broadcast over the next 2 hours. Tons of headlines to hit and some great FanDuel options for you to come later today. Gentlemen, good morning.
It's a big day.
Yes,
They're all
is.
big days. A Thursday. I'm blanking on what number show this is for us. 39?
You're the counter. I'm guessing 39.
Maybe? 39. I got to go back and look at it. I'm going to say day 39. Sounds
go with
right.
it.
Tomorrow will be day 40 of the show. Excited to be here. Excited about some of the news yesterday that we're going to get into. Excited about Paul's Yankees taking the first two in the series from the Astros. Congrats on that, Paul.
Thank you. Getting it done.
A lot to
A little
discuss.
soccer success as well. Chelsea yesterday.
A lot to discuss with Aaron Rodgers today. We get into not the Yankees, but the Rangers, the New York Rangers, and fight night last night at MSG.
Big night for the Orioles and
Afternoon.
Hutton's boys last night.
Afternoon.
Well,
We
it reverberated into the night.
Yes,
The
it did.
afternoon became the night, and both were big for the Orioles and the Orioles Nation.
It was a big afternoon and night for us, for OutKick, and others as well, with the news of Fox's acquisition of OutKick and Clay Travis making the announcement yesterday at OutKick.com. Guys, we are pumped about the news. More resources and energy devoted to bringing our listeners, our viewers, the OutKick audience, the best content every day. A massive investment in the current employees and the infrastructure of OutKick. And an expansion with more content creators is to come with this acquisition through Fox.
You know, I kind of look at it and equate it to when people were asking me, hey, is this good news for you guys? And of course I'd respond and say, yes, it's great news, but it's like if the PGA Tour doubled the amount of clubs you could carry in your bag, right?
Yeah.
Suddenly you have more clubs at your convenience to use in a golf tournament. Well, we got more clubs to swing now with this acquisition with Fox, with OutKick 360 and the entire OutKick network, and I think that's a good thing anytime you have resources like that. I would also say this, when we left our local radio station, there were a lot of people who would ask me on social media or just text me and not really understand that OutKick was bigger than one local radio station at the time. I'd almost have to convince them and tell them how OutKick is this big media company and big things are happening with OutKick. This removes my having to tell people that it's bigger.
And why
Now
we bought
that
into
Fox
the vision.
Sports is-
That was the other question.
Yeah, now that Fox Sports is a
what's the
part of
buy-in?
it, there's no denying it. You don't even have to mention it. It's obviously bigger now that it's a part of this bigger network with Fox.
I'm amused. A lot of people texting me, that I'm now best friends with Tucker Carlson or Sean Hannity, and that is not my alley per se. But here's a long list of other people that work with Fox, and
That's it?
Please, read from that list.
I'm also not aligned necessarily with Mayim Bialik. But she's certainly not good friends with Tucker Carlson
Big Blossom
and
fan,
Sean Hannity, and she works for Fox.
Paul was more
Angela
Joey Lawrence.
Bassett works for Fox. Kristen Wiig works for Fox, on and on. But I don't know why the instinct wouldn't be to put us with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and Gus Johnson and Tim Brando and people who work for Fox Sports, since we're a sports show. So Clay certainly fits there somewhere with Fox News and Fox Sports. We're going to fit with Fox Sports because we're a sports show. So Fox Sports is a pretty big entity, which also happens to cover the NFL,
let
which
me
is
be
a pretty
clear.
big thing that we talk about.
OutKick 360 is going to fit with OutKick. And OutKick's not changing. I mean, that was made clear yesterday through Clay in his statement that they just showed on the screen. OutKick.com to read the full column. I loved what Clay had to say, how he started the site 10 years ago, to why he's staying on as president now and where he hopes this will grow with the trunk of the tree and all of the different branches, including sports betting, including the 10 states that we currently reach right now where you can legally download the FanDuel app and place your bet. That's going to grow even further now. You can see it now, FanDuel.com/OK360. This is a chance for the show to do the exact same thing with the different branches and the different avenues to take in OutKick 360. And this is what, quite frankly, we signed up for. This was the vision that was laid out. We didn't know exactly the landing spot for all of this, but we knew Clay was up to something. We knew that OutKick was up to something. And we're not even, 40 days into the show? And the news breaks yesterday about all of this that, again, we are thrilled for. I can't wait to get down this path and see how fast we can get moving.
Yeah, and I think that it's a good point, Hutton. If you like OutKick, OutKick is still OutKick. Clay Travis is on top of OutKick. He's the president of OutKick. He put that in his statement. This isn't some suit coming in from Fox that's now running OutKick. It's owned by Fox, the brand, but it's still Clay Travis's vision. He's still the president of the company. We are still us. This isn't changing our show and what we do with sports. Clay brought us on because what is it Clay always says? Original, funny, smart authentic content. And that's why he always liked our show. That's why he brought us over. We are going to be authentic to what we are and who we are as a show. And that's not going to change and who we are. And it's funny that, Paul, you're getting some of those tweets. I was too. And I'm thinking, where's all the backlash for The Simpsons? It's weird that, The Simpsons has been on Fox for years, and I'm not seeing the backlash on The Simpsons coming with this, and everyone immediately connecting it to other things, which I found funny. Here's the other part of this. It's a lesser story with this, but bigger for this show. I am now colleagues with Erin Andrews and Fox. The countdown.
You think she knows
Who the F are you? She's still asking that today.
You think she knows that?
The countdown to my reunion with Erin Andrews,
is on.
possibly at the Super Bowl in L.A., is on. And we need to talk about this on the show. For those that don't know it, you can go back and read it at OutKick. Clay has a story.
We need a countdown clock on the screen.
You can search Chad Withrow, Erin Andrews, and the story will pop up.
Broken trust.
Erin Andrews at a dinner one night in New York City, when I dared to speak at this dinner and address the table, she looked at me with all seriousness and said, "Who the F are you?" is what she said to me.
Excuse me.
And it's been great fodder for this show for a long time. Clay wrote about it, and now we work for the same company, and I think that this is, guys, I'm all about bridging the divide, right? This is the chance that I can maybe make a better impression on Erin Andrews if we meet.
And also, we can now get into the rest of the show with a great transition by me, because the subject of that conversation where Withrow dared to speak was Aaron Rodgers, who we're going to talk about right now.
Yes, it was. Good segue.
Aaron Rodgers, so the story came out right as we were wrapping up yesterday that this is Mike Garofalo of NFL Media, who reported that dating back to last season, Rodgers was telling the team's prospective free agents, quote, "Before you make any decisions, I'm probably not going to be there."
Did we get clarification that he was saying this last year? Because we were going off the air and we were unsure.
From Garofalo's story, dating back to last season, Rodgers was telling the team's prospective free agents, "Before you make any decisions, I'm probably not going to be there."
Now,
meaning not talking to his own teammates, talking to
outsiders,
potential teammates, saying, "Hey, know you're going to be a free agent. Probably not going to be there."
I soured on Aaron Rodgers on the start of the draft when this came out Thursday night. I said I had flipped on Aaron Rodgers. This flips me way harder. If he's telling people who might have signed or re-signed with the Packers before 2020 that he's not going to be there in 2021, thus damaging his own chances to have an improved football team in 2020, then what is he doing? I mean, that's not just hurting the Packers, that's hurting himself.
Well, this is referencing 2020. Dating back to last season, which would have been 2020.
Right. So conceivably, somebody might have chosen not to sign there in 2020 because they knew he wasn't going to be there for as long as me, as a signee, am going to be there longer than Aaron Rodgers is going to be there. It's less appealing for me. And so Aaron Rodgers hurt his own chances, conceivably, at getting a guy on last year's team that could have helped him win that NFC Championship game and get past the Bucs. So now he's meddled with his own chances at success.
Is there an NFL rule It just seems
He
like
tampered with his own team.
Exactly. It's tampering. It seems like the NFL could get involved if that's true, and they could prove it.
No, I
that
don't
he's
think-
dissuading free agents from signing with his team.
There's not a player tampering thing. It's an organizational
But it's also
tampering.
Well, let's take a step back.
self-sabotage is what
Let's
it
take a
is.
step back and put this in perspective. After a game, guys talk at the 50-yard line or during a timeout. You're waiting on a TV
Or
timeout.
at the Pro Bowl. People do
Wherever it might be, and you're talking like, "Hey man, I'd love to play for you.
With
Contract coming up, yeah, or play with you." And the reaction is, "Well, funny you mentioned that. I may not be there." If someone came up to me a year ago and said, "Hey man, I'd love to work with you. Let's do this long term," I would say to them, "I may not be where I am long term." That's fair.
Yeah,
That's not tampering.
It's a good way to put it. It's honesty. I have turned.
But did you
want to
win last year while you
I
were
did
still
win.
there?
I did win, and so did he. He won the MVP.
I think that's
He
Aaron
didn't win
Rodgers
the Super
saying
Bowl.
my loyalty.
Not all on Aaron Rodgers. The team
No,
can spend
I
more money. They
agree.
can also draft more offensive players to help him. Matt LaFleur can not kick a field goal and win.
Agree with all of that. But if they were talking legitimately to a wide receiver who might have come, he might have hurt that chance. I don't like that.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a fair point you raise, Hutton, because I also don't want players just lying to
Right.
prospective free agents
Well, you
and
could
saying,
say
"Oh
nothing.
yeah, I'm here long term," and yeah, but if you say nothing, you're kind of saying the same thing. Hey, you going to be around?
Silence.
I think we all know what that means.
They're not asking the question. They're presuming he's going to be there. He's under contract and
Now,
everything.
if you
You're
were
going out of your way to
seeking
tell
out-
him you're not going to be there.
Again, this is two different things. If a guy comes to you and gives you a call and knows you and says, "Aaron, I'm thinking about signing with the Green Bay Packers. What's your plan?" And Aaron Rodgers gives the honest assessment of, "I'm probably not going to be here after this next year."
That's one thing.
That's
This
one
sounds
thing.
like he
him
was being
reaching out
proactive.
to people and saying, "Don't sign with the Packers because I'm not going to be here, or I need you to know I'm not going to be here before you make a decision." Then I have a big issue with
This
that.
sounds like that to me.
And I turn. That sounds awfully extreme. If that's the case, there's just so many conflicting. This comes back to Paul, what you were saying. Say what you mean what you say. Aaron Rodgers needs to speak if he's got issues, because now everyone is telling the story for him.
Yeah.
John Kuhn is another one who went on record, who
Yeah.
works in Packers broadcasting also. But he says, I really don't think Aaron is that cynical of a person to want the GM fired, that he does not believe that at all, that it's either him or Gutekunst. And then he goes on to say, "I still believe there's an opportunity at a resolution here." He puts it at 70% that Aaron Rodgers is back with the Packers. He said, "I just think it's going to take two men that are dug in right now to try to meet in the middle so they're both happy." What we said from the beginning.
David Dunn.
Got to sit down and talk to both sides and see if you can have some sort of resolution. But it would help if Aaron Rodgers said something so we knew his side of this and weren't just picking apart things he may have told other people, things people are hearing, what he did with free agents, and all of that.
So there's a long time for things to settle and hash out. And he knows, too, that this is going to be the national story. Like every day, we're entering the time where
Yeah.
there are no new NFL stories for a long time. This is going to be the story. Every little development. Domofsky says 5%. Kuhn says 70%. Let's get the percentimeter, fellas. Every day we're going to have somebody saying a percent on Rodgers. Favre.
We did hear from Favre too.
Favre has spoken. He does not believe he's coming back. He said, I don't think he's going to be a Packer, knowing Aaron Rodgers and knowing that situation. And also, this whole idea now that I'm hearing from a lot of different people, when the speculation comes up about, should Aaron Rodgers go to your team? Whatever market you're in, whatever NFL team you're a fan of, and people come back and say, "Oh, I don't want a personality like Aaron Rodgers." Really? I mean, he played for the Packers for 16 years and had a ton of success. This isn't changing my perception of I would not want Aaron Rodgers on my team because his personality is bad.
Let's
ask
discuss
his
that.
teammates what they think of him.
We've also learned from two guys. Let's get into that,
Yeah.
Hut.
We discussed the personality of Aaron Rodgers and whether or not it matters for a team acquiring him.
We're just crushing segues today, by the way.
that
Those
is-
two great segues.
Just coming up.
Ridiculous.
Also, a perfectly timed shot at the Green Bay Packers from their rival. We have this quote straight ahead from Ryan Pace, who we tip the cap to. coming up. But first, the proper grooming requires precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. And just announced the all-new trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped.com. As you can see it right now on your screen, just released, now available at Manscaped.com. With Manscaped, you have the right tools for the job. They obsess over providing the best tech, the advanced ceramic blade, the skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 has travel lock for those on the go, and the LED spotlight, Chad, provides a more precise shave.
You're going to hear something like this to go along with it also, and you can see this light as I'm using the old version. This, of course, the new version. New additional guard length, sizes 1 through 4. It's waterproof, perfect for the shower, plus wireless charging. I'm a man who sometimes have charging issues with my devices. Wireless charging is a great thing, Paul.
Paul, there's a great offer right now.
20% off is a nice discount, and free shipping with the code OK360 at manscaped.com.
No nicks, no cuts, just a smooth shave. Again, manscaped.com, 20% off with the code OK360 at checkout. Check out the Lawnmower 4.0 from Manscaped.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Really excited to finally have some in-person OutKick VIP events. We're at 6th and Peabody, Old Smoky, Yeehaw Brewery. Awesome day, great questions, good to shake everybody's hand. It's just good to be able to get out and see everybody.
We love to meet with the people that make us possible as a show, the people that tune in, the people that watch, the people that listen.
A lot of these VIPs interact with us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And now we get a chance to come out and hang out, watch games, and interact with them the same way we would interact with the three of us on a daily basis. It's awesome.
If you're at a VIP event, you're going to hear more about the inside jokes, stuff that goes on behind the scenes. You can ask us anything. We want to be with listeners and viewers as much as possible, so we're thrilled.
Looking forward to doing a lot more of these VIP events as we continue to grow.
It's an incredible experience. I would advise everyone out there, if you're a fan of OutKick or OutKick 360, to sign up and be a VIP.
OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. Alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Koharski, I'm Jonathan Hutton. The great crew on staff, Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson, David Reed, could not do the show here from Blackbird Studio without them. A big thanks to Becca Risley, Sleepy Danny for making the show happen today. We hope he's awake. Sarah Triplett, welcome to the show as a production assistant. Today is day number 1 for Sarah.
Props all around.
Yeah, a huge cast on hand through OutKick to bring you OutKick 360 each and every day, noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, right here, wherever you may be watching.
Sarah Triplett, the first intern, but not the last. The first OutKick 360 intern. She will always hold that distinction as the first intern in OutKick 360 history.
And if she's not a FanDuel user, she's about to be. FanDuel.com/OK360 because
get that phone out right
Sarah,
now. Sarah,
as a new user, could sign up for up to $1,000 risk-free bet as a new user. And if she lost her first bet, she would get that back in site credit up to $1,000. You can try FanDuel Sportsbook today. FanDuel.com/OK360 for the promotion. And Chad, we were scanning through some of the offers available today with the games, and there are more promotions that go with this other than the $1,000 back in site credit. Plenty of offers and promotions every day just by clicking up top on the site. But as you scroll through, and that was hopefully, Chad, your offers have been better than that with your losing streak from a couple of weeks ago. But as Jacob throws up something
Jacob
from
says,
a few
"Oh,
weeks
damn."
ago, there is a game that you had your eye on today.
There is a game, Hutton. It's a game that you had an eye on too because it infuriated you with Major League Baseball's stance on Madison Bumgarner and the 7-inning no-hitter that was discredited by Major League Baseball. Madison Bumgarner, the Diamondbacks,
getting a run and a half.
He's on the bump, getting a run and a half. I don't like the run spreads in Major League Baseball. I'm a money line guy when it comes to picking a game. I'm going Diamondbacks over the Miami Marlins.
Let's load up.
What do we think of
one of the least attractive franchises in all of pro sports?
What do we think of Garrett Cole over under 8.5 strikeouts against your Houston Astros today?
Paul, you are huge on strikeout.
I love the strikeout props.
Against his former team.
I'm not a strikeout prop guy to know enough about what's a good number for a certain pitcher.
He struck out, I think, 11 in his last start.
See, I like the simplicity of the money line because everyone can understand winning or losing.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, I think this
team's going to win. Staying in the game long enough to strike out 9 guys.
I understand strikeouts, but I'm saying...
That's the key. How long do you think he lasts?
Well,
if
he's throwing well, he
you're
throws
asking
at least
me, Paul,
6.
I'm a guy who needs guidance on these props because you've done it a lot more. You tell us what you're thinking because when I start playing strikeout props, I'm going to go to you because I don't do any baseball props.
I'm a little surprised that it's not higher. So I
on the strikeout?
Yeah. I mean, that's the right number, but I could see him striking out 9 or 10.
That means we're going under. Paul's a little surprised it's not higher. Vegas knows something there.
I'm going to be very simple with my pick. Diamondbacks. They're going to win. They're going to beat the Miami Marlins with Madison Bumgarner on the bump. Diamondbacks get it done. Take them on the money line.
Okay, so we're about to show you the money line. Is you can get
and utilize this code OK360.
Absolutely.
Take advantage of it. Sarah's doing it right now. So I'll break her phone out.
You can get the insurance as well. But you click any sport. We always for today we were checking baseball this morning, and here are your lines. I was asking Chad initially about his Bravos, where Atlanta giving a run and a half, I believe, today. But he said, you know what? No, I'm not buying that. Not buying that. What else do you got? And I said, how about the Diamondbacks plus a run and a half? And he said, stop right there. That's where we're loading up.
Yeah, Braves going for the sweep. It's the final game of that series. Yeah, it's the final game of that series. They play Philly tomorrow. So they're going for the 3-game sweep of Washington. Not a Drew Smiley believer right now for the Braves. So I'm not taking the Braves. I am a Madison Bumgarner believer, so I'm going Arizona.
I took Cole over 8.5 Yankees money line, got 173 on the parlay. So Yanks will lose today.
Hey, props to John Means on the hill yesterday for the Baltimore Orioles. My O's. Means becomes the first player since Jim Palmer in 1969 to throw a no-hitter. individual no-hitter for the Baltimore Orioles. And he was a wild pitch away from a perfect game. A pitch that was a third swing strikeout for Means.
In the third inning.
It gets underneath Severino, the catcher's legs, on a breaking ball. They eventually throw out the runner at second base. But the runner advanced to first on a strikeout. Means gets the no-hitter. What an unbelievable story. His father had recently passed away, I think last year, maybe 2019. And he nearly quit baseball altogether because he wasn't highly recruited. In fact, was not recruited in high school. Bounced around to different high schools just to play high school. Gets to West Virginia, is an 11th round pick, works his way up. Now he's the ace for the Orioles and has on the inside of his glove his father's name and throws a no-hitter yesterday in Seattle. It's cool. An amazing story.
I like the way he throws. Methodical, upright pitcher, not a lot of hunch,
smooth,
not a crazy motion, all of that stuff.
West Virginia not exactly known for college baseball as a program either. For him to go there and accomplish that's amazing. And you said Jim Palmer was the last no-hitter. I believe I read this correctly where that's the longest gap for a major league club to go from in between no-hitters.
But they've had 10. So good pitching organization historically. While we're reviewing last night or yesterday afternoon, I know you guys aren't particularly concerned with the Champions League in Europe, but I was telling Chad, this is an interesting story in this regard. Thomas Tuchel, who's now the coach of my Chelsea squad, last year coached PSG out of Paris, and he got them to the Champions League final. Then they started poorly this year, lost his job, comes into Chelsea, which is struggling, fires their coach, revives Chelsea, and has them in the European Championship final. 2 different teams in Europe's final in 2 years. That is a kick-ass coaching job.
This gentleman's name again?
Thomas
Phil
Tuchel.
Yes. Phil Jackson of international soccer.
German. He's fantastic.
Can this guy coach the U.S. men's national team?
No.
Yeah, where is he?
It's well below him. So
is
here's
he
the
coaching a
interesting
national
thing.
team?
No, but you don't coach a national team and a Premier League team. It's not. You don't double dip that way. But
it's
here's
not
the
like
thing.
Olympic basketball where the NBA coach or college coach takes over.
So here's the interesting thing, though. The European Championship is 2 Premier League teams. Chelsea against Man City, excuse me. They play a Premier League game Saturday against each other. That's of consequence. Chelsea needs to win it to get top 4 to be in next year's. Not definitely needs to win it, but to get into next year's Champion League. So a game of consequence between these 2 teams this weekend, and then they play the 29th for the Championship of Europe.
Paul, help me with this because you were always a bigger, better than smaller guy. Global, better than national, national, better than local, right? So you said it's beneath him to coach a national team for a Premier League guy? Is it the biggest thing in the world, the World Cup?
Yes.
And coaching a national team to win a World Cup?
Yes.
Would be the biggest thing you could accomplish?
And coaching England is a very big job, but it's also a very big job for the European Euro and World Cup, but those only come every 2 and every 4 years. So if you're looking for a daily job, your club, Chelsea, is a daily job. Coaching England is a daily job in that you're scouting and getting things organized, but you don't have players to work with until those club teams break up and disperse for qualification and stuff like that.
So is it your opinion that these national team coaches are inferior to the managers of the European Premier Leagues?
They're very good jobs, but if you have a top job, if you go offer the coach of a top club, a top country job, that's a tough call.
That's double that salary.
Quitting.
Coaching Americans is beneath him.
Oh, certainly.
That's so. I hate to hear that, but I'm sure you're right. I mean, that would be the job that's beneath him. But it's not like international basketball where
if
you're USA
cycle.
basketball,
you
go hire Mike Krzyzewski, for instance, to coach the national team. You can hire whoever you want, college or pro. The best coach in America can go do it and coach their respective program or team. It's not the same way in international soccer.
Maybe you could do both. I don't think it's happening. Maybe I'm speaking a little bit out of school, but I don't think England's coach has a job other than England's coach.
So an unbelievable, at least I found it to be funny, shot at the Green Bay Packers through the Chicago Bears, where Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace at the post-draft press conference. Ryan Pace, after they traded up for Justin Fields, made it a point to tell the media that Matt Nagy called Andy Dalton to make sure that Dalton knew in advance of the team's options of trading up to go after Justin Fields and to bring him into the quarterback room. The quote was, "That communication and clarity to us is really important." That quote is a direct shot at Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers not knowing about the team trading up to go after Jordan Love. And that is the type of rivalry fodder I am here for.
I love it. I think it's a clever shot, and I like it. And I love when teams get a little saucy and start taking shots at each other like this. However, I will say, I don't know that I'm in a rush to hear from the Chicago Bears taking quarterback communication shots at the Green Bay Packers, who just went from Brett Favre for a long period of time to Aaron Rodgers.
Take what you can.
For a long period of time. So I don't know if that's the team I want to hear that from, but I do think it's a very funny and clever shot.
Just saying, if the ball's on the tee, you take a swing. And the ball is clearly on the tee for Chicago in that moment. To say, you know what, we did call Andy Dalton, of all quarterbacks. We called our QB1 and let him know that we're drafting, not just drafting, but we're trading up to go draft Justin Fields.
And the Packers come back and say, well, you know what? Rex Grossman's not walking through that door anytime soon. So why don't you go find a quarterback and then talk to us?
So are people really concerned with Aaron Rodgers' personality? People being fans of teams that don't currently have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback?
I've heard this from multiple places. So we name names on this show. I'm going to be completely honest. I've heard this from so many places. I can't name names because a lot of people are saying it. And the quote is, I don't want Aaron Rodgers and his personality on my team or in my locker room. And my initial thought is, you don't want the reigning NFL MVP, one of the 2 or 3 best quarterbacks in the game, on your team because of his personality? A guy who's seemingly gotten along with teammates for years.
Yeah.
He's not been a huge disruption to the point where he's tearing down the Packers organization or their chances at success. Is he difficult to play with? Probably. Michael Jordan was difficult to play with. I mean, there's guys like that are super demanding. I don't think Davante Adams has an issue with Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers has an issue with Davante Adams. Do your job, do it well, and you and Aaron Rodgers are going to get along fine. So it's more, to me, insecurity about your own team if you're saying that. I don't want this guy with a big personality that also happens to be maybe the greatest quarterback in the game, or certainly the best 2 or 3 currently in football. I don't want him in my locker room because he's got a bad personality. I don't get that. Because let's be completely honest here. There's only 2 or 3 teams that should not be considering Aaron Rodgers. Now, there is a sliding scale of who needs Aaron Rodgers more than other ones. We talked about it yesterday. The 49ers pops up immediately as, that makes a ton of sense. When that trade was talked about before. That's a team ready-made to compete for a Super Bowl if they had an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. He's from that area also. But no way am I passing on Aaron Rodgers because of his personality.
Not because of his personality. That's ridiculous to say you'd pass on him because of his personality. You might pass on him, whether you find it reasonable or not as an outsider, because you just made a move up and drafted Trey Lance and you're ready to start a new thing in a new direction. Not saying that Aaron Rodgers isn't a fantastic quarterback who you might, win with right now, but you've made a long-term plan and you're far enough along with that long-term plan that you're not willing to tear it up, having made a decision to go that direction. And that's the case with a lot of teams in the league. And also the thing that complicates it is, and you brought this up early this week, Hutton, and much to your credit, this is not a situation where this is automatically you trade your quarterback to get Aaron Rodgers back, because Green Bay, the start of this whole thing, maybe not the start, and we'll get into that, but a big element of this whole thing is that they've drafted Aaron Rodgers' successor. And so what they're looking for back isn't necessarily a quarterback. It's not a quarterback. And so you can't say, Well, would I trade my quarterback for Aaron Rodgers? Yes. Well, they're not looking for a quarterback back, probably. And so you can't say, would I take him over mine? Yes. Because they don't want yours. So if you've already got a guy at quarterback with salary dedicated to him and plans, how do you get out of your quarterback in order to bring him in?
Well, it's
show me
also
mine, I'll show you yours.
so it's
Tit for tat.
It's also based on the flexibility and the patience that the organization has in the current general manager and head coach. And let's use an example. Carolina. Let's compare Carolina to Denver. Matt Rule in Carolina, brand new general manager who came from Seattle as well, and Fitterer, excuse me.
Fitterer.
In thinking about that setup, where they're investing in Sam Darnold for the next year, 2 years, to see if they want to move forward with that contract. And I'm not saying they shouldn't be in the mix for Aaron Rodgers compared to Sam Darnold. I'm comparing the organizational structure. Compared to Denver, where Vic Fangio's job is on the line in 2021. It was on the line last year, and he survived somehow. You think the Denver Broncos would pass on Aaron Rodgers because of a personality issue?
Well, I don't know. Well, nobody's passing on him because of a personality issue. That's some fan-made-up stuff. His personality in a locker room with the team is
great.
great.
Justification, though, Paul, is I don't want this malcontent in the locker room poisoning.
Well, he's not a malcontent on a new team. And he didn't do anything to hurt his old team. He won the MVP.
The choir here. You're preaching the choir. Let me give you an example, though, of when I talk about the hierarchy of who would be interested in Aaron Rodgers. We're doing the show in Nashville. Local team, the Titans. They have Ryan Tannehill. If you're a team like the Titans that just won a division, and you're a team that's looking to be back in the playoffs this year, and you've got a good quarterback in place, and you got bigger needs on the opposite side of the ball or in other places, you don't want to give up what it would take to bring in Aaron Rodgers. That doesn't make sense for a team like the Titans. But is Aaron Rodgers better than Ryan Tannehill?
Absolutely.
Absolutely he's better than Ryan Tannehill. So just
he's better
quarterback
than everybody,
to quarterback.
Except Tom Brady.
And Pat Mahomes. I mean, there's two guys you would argue with. It's Rodgers, Mahomes, Brady. Everyone else should be interested on a player-to-player standpoint in Aaron Rodgers, but again, Titans is the example. Just doesn't make sense because you've got a good quarterback, you got big needs. Quarterback's not the issue.
You got cap situations.
And you're coming off a division championship where you're thinking you're going to win another one this year, and you don't want to give up what it would take to get an Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it's a lot of other context around it, and again, it's not trading your quarterback for that quarterback. So it would be simpler if it was, your quarterback plus a bunch of draft picks for that quarterback. It would be a lot more cut and dried. That's not what we're talking about.
This big story was the story of the draft that broke the Thursday of round one. I mean, the internet was destroyed when the story came out that Aaron Rodgers wanted to be traded, and Schefter and other NFL reporters took to their respective networks. But this is a headline and a story that's been in the mix for years. Charles Robinson from Yahoo recently pointed out and said he even forgot that he put this nugget in a story from 2018 that said that Rodgers was wanting a bit more say, not final say, but a heads up on roster decisions as he was moving forward in his tenure, in his career with the Green Bay organization. Meanwhile, Paul, Bob McGinn, in a story at The Athletic, points out that there was a straw that broke the camel's back, and it's not even a player that the average fan, the casual fan, and maybe even the hardcore fan of the National Football League would even recognize. One of his friends, Jake Kumaro, the team decided to release him in early September, and this took place 24 hours after Aaron Rodgers went on SiriusXM and mentioned how much he valued the wide receiver being on the 53-man roster. Less than a day later, the team cut him. And that move, according to Bob McGinn, is the straw that broke the camel's back with Aaron Rodgers in the organization.
And then, Chad, he was asked later, I don't remember the exact timetable, Rodgers was asked for an endorsement of somebody, and he said, I'm going to steer something akin to it. I'm going to steer clear of that. Last time I endorsed somebody, ended up in Buffalo.
Yeah. Now, look, Kumaro is not some game changer. You know, he's since been released in Buffalo.
He's a role player.
He's a role player.
But he liked him, and he found him dependable.
And he was friends with him in the locker room. They were genuine friends in the locker room. Like, speaking of personalities, they clicked. They're really good friends. And then 24 hours after Rodgers mentioned that, they cut the dude.
I mean, I think reasonable people would expect to be angry about that if you're Aaron Rodgers. If you were in his position and they asked you an opinion on a guy and you said you liked him and then they turned around and cut him, then my response would, why did you even come to me and ask if that was going to be the case after I gave my endorsement? I mean, there are some things here that I get it. I would be frustrated if I were Aaron Rodgers also. Is he handling it the right way? No, because he's not being transparent about what he wants, and he's not saying it. He's not saying it to the media. He's not talking to the Packers about it, and that's what needs to change. But there's some righteous frustration with Aaron Rodgers.
I just wish, these things are starting to drip out. The Jerry Krause texts, this detail. It's been a steady drip now. I'd like to hear from him.
What can he say that wins people over at this point?
I don't know if he's
going to
lose
for those that are criticizing him, because it's those that are being critical of him are saying, you're letting this stuff leak out there, where look, the news cycle is going to pick up on every little thing now. Like, we're going back to something that was written in 2018 and making it a new headline. But with him, if he comes out and demands a trade, well, then he's the bad guy. If he comes out and says that he didn't want this out there, then he's criticized for leaking it. I mean, this is coming from his camp on Thursday, not coming from Green Bay, certainly. So what do you say that makes people happy at this point? Or do you just stay silent?
Well,
if he shows up, let me give you an example. If he shows up at the Kentucky Derby and does the on-camera interview with Tirico and says, you know what, I do think, Mike, that I've played my final down in Green Bay for wearing a Packers uniform, and here's why. Are we calling him a crybaby right now and saying that he this is the NFL, not the NBA? I think the majority of people are saying that's not how the NFL's structured.
This is less about how he's perceived from the public and more about how he should approach this situation. Instead of leaking news the day of the draft and then allowing this serve and volley, where now the Packers are leaking bad news about Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers is going to go to a media friend and his camp is going to leak bad news about the Packers, just say what your intentions are.
I get it.
Just say it. Packers fans and football fans are going to be pissed regardless.
Why don't the Packers do the
out.
same thing? If the intentions were truly that they told him prior to the draft that we are going to trade you, and then they're now saying that they had no intention of trading him, why don't they be more transparent with this news?
Well, they should be. They've at least been in front of cameras.
And the floor stands up there and lies and says that he hasn't even crossed his mind that Aaron Rodgers won't be back.
I don't see how it doesn't serve Aaron Rodgers well. I'm not saying he needs to come out and say, yeah, I want to be traded or whatever. If he was in front of a camera in a casual conversation with a friendly outlet and said, I'm frustrated. This thing has come to an head, and we need some brand of resolution here. And I feel like it's their time to take the first step towards that, volley it into their court that way, and then right, he's really put the onus on them.
Well, then they fire their GM, and he's the
they won't.
He's the guy who's dropping the guillotine.
And now,
I don't think
Kuhn,
he'd have
the
a problem
former
with that.
fullback,
He
is saying he's not that cynical. That he would not have a guy fired. Like, he knows Aaron Rodgers well enough to know
I don't
that's
think
not
their
the
response
case.
would be to fire the GM. I'm with John McClain. They're not firing the GM.
Well, not when the organization has already. I mean, they're telling us without telling us that next year is the deciding year for Jordan Love. It's going to be this year, but next year, based on the contract structure, has to be the deciding year, because you have to know whether or not to pick up a fifth-year option after a guy's third season. On a quarterback fifth-year option, you're not going to just trade up for a guy in the first round and then never play him.
They screwed up the whole timetable with that draft pick.
What do you do if you're Jordan Love now?
You can't do anything because they've got control.
The best story possible is going to be him demanding a trade. I mean, if that comes out now, I've sat back long enough and watched these stories And I'm going to say that I clearly am not trusted by this organization, and I want out. Would be hilarious to me.
I can't say I'm not trusted by them, but I say that the whole thing is because they drafted me.
Yeah.
And they made a mistake, so let's get me out of here, and then everything takes care of itself. That'd be funny.
A hilarious tweet would be to like mock up some fake offer from Jeopardy and tweet it out if you're Jordan Love.
Yeah, or say that Family Feud is firing Steve Harvey. I'm in talks with Family
We're starting some new game shows.
The match game.
You're
going to do that.
With that thin microphone. I like the thin microphone.
What if he really owned it and he made his nickname The Mistake? So then if he goes on to a great career, he could always be The Mistake. You know, like Allen Iverson was The Answer. He was The Mistake by the Packers, especially if he goes somewhere else.
Rodgers was able to live up to the pressure of Brett Favre after that saga. And now, Jordan Love, no fault of his own, is underneath that same microscope when he takes his snap. And he was the third quarterback last year.
Well, you know what really hurt
Tim Boyle
them?
was the second.
You know what really hurt that whole situation? Really hurts this whole situation.
He's the only other quarterback on the roster, by the way.
This is the only reason in the world to have any regret about no preseason last year.
Yep. Because you had no idea.
Yeah. And he would have played, probably 3 quarters of some of those games.
Sure.
I've got a surprise for Paul Kuharsky.
I have an inkling. I overheard something.
We usually like Paul showing up late so we can talk about it behind his back, but he may have heard something this time.
By showing up late, an hour and 20 minutes early.
Right.
Tom Coughlin over here.
Let me clarify now, because we have new bosses that may be tuning in. Paul doesn't ever show up late. He shows up later than me and Hutton. That's what I meant to say.
Only because he doesn't need coffee.
That's right.
Chad's great bad sports movies. Or is it films? Well,
pieces of cinema.
Art. What it is art.
If you missed the end of yesterday's show, Chad was ripped to shreds by Paul for mentioning the program. And quoting the program.
A very quotable film.
We will find out if the program is in this top 5. And the other pieces of art that are considered bad by PK that make the top 5 great bad sports films for Chad Withrow next on OutKick 360. OutKick 360 rolls on. We have the Tennessee Power Hour coming up in about 10 minutes. The three of us just placed a bet, fanduel.com/OK360. We've got the parlay going on. Paul, the details. We have the Yankees to win outright.
Go Yanks.
And Garrett Cole over 8.5 strikeouts in this game. And the first pitch is about 10 minutes away at Yankee Stadium.
Let's go get it done. Let's finish the sweep.
Let's do it.
Let's finish the sweep, put the Astros in their lowly place, and win 6 in a row.
If you'd like to join us on that parlay, you can do it now. There's still 12 minutes before first pitch. Again, take the Yankees to win and take Garrett Cole over 8.5 strikeouts for the game.
Sarah Triplett, our new intern, production assistant, is going to update us on strikeouts for Garrett Cole.
She'll do this.
She's going to get a hold up of, yes.
2.
Hopefully she'll be doing that.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then over.
And then we're going to celebrate.
If she doesn't give us any motion, we have problems on the strikeouts.
Very, very concerned if in 20
Either
minutes
she's very
we've got
forgetful,
none.
We have
or
problems.
we're not winning.
Could be the last day of her internship.
She's also going to keep tabs on how many of these films Paul has A, seen, and B, enjoyed. Chad Withrow presents the bad, great sports films.
Let me just say again, I want to preview his list.
Okay.
What Chad mistakes is sentiment for a film, for that film being good. Look, I have great sentiment for Fletch, right? In college, we watched Fletch a bunch.
We all did, yeah.
We know all of the line. You're using the whole fist, Doc, the whole, can I borrow your towel? My car just hit a water buffalo. All great lines. Mm-hmm. But we don't mistake it for the deer hunter. Right? This is not an Academy Award. It's not The Godfather. It's not an Academy Award-winning film. Chad blurs the lines. These movies that he has great sentiment for,
so completely,
he thinks are excellent
utterly
films.
False. Everything
he thinks they're great. He quotes them like they're the Bible, and they're not.
I think
you have a thought,
Lance. Your thoughts,
Lance, please.
Paul, did you just reference the film that you were in?
Yes. It's a great film.
Co-star of
I happen to be, sorry Lance, but I happen to be in a great film. It's not my fault. If I was in a bad film, I would tell you it's a bad film. Unlike Chad. If Chad was in one of these films, he would make it even better than
Lance,
it
in the
is.
Deer Hunter, we once on the show tried to pinpoint exactly where Paul is. And
hard
you
to
just have
find
to
me.
take his word for it, that he's the grainy child in the bottom right corner of the screen.
This is the difference. Like, I can acknowledge what is artistically really good and is going to be nominated for an Oscar, while also acknowledging that, with all due respect to the Deer Hunter, I've seen it once. And I've never wanted to go back and rewatch The Deer Hunter. Major League was not nominated for an Oscar, but I can watch that movie at any time, and no one's going to argue with me that's not one of the most entertaining
Major League
movies
is a fun,
of all
good
time.
film. Most of these are not.
You haven't
very
even heard
good.
the list yet. You haven't heard the list.
Well,
First
based
off,
on yesterday, I got a feeling.
First off, Major League is not on the list because it's a legitimately great film.
Yeah.
Let me go on record in saying that.
Yeah,
to begin with.
here are other
These
movies that aren't going to be on the list. Bull Durham and Field of Dreams, because they're good.
These are my great. Exactly. So I get the exercise. None of those are on the list because they are legitimately great. These are my great bad sports films. Okay, it's not necessarily so bad it's great. It's just that I acknowledge that technically they're not the most well-made or acted
But they're
films.
rewatchable.
Well, that's the end of the
But they're
segment. We finally
rewatchable,
got
and
an acknowledgement.
it's very entertaining.
Rewatchable.
These are my great bad sports movies. And again, this is not the Rolling Stone just did a list of the top 100 sitcoms of all time, which is very entertaining.
Was Seinfeld
But they
number one?
go throughout time, and go through all the sitcoms. This is a very specific time window.
What was number one
of
on that
movies that I rewatch and that I like. So this is not an all-time list. This is my list.
What was number one on that list? Seinfeld?
I've not read all of it yet, so I don't know. Number 5. Let's see if Jacob's got this right graphic up. A Tom Selleck classic, Mr. Baseball, 1992. Tom Selleck as Jack Elliott goes to Japan. His career is struggling, dying in the States, in the major leagues. Goes to Japan. I think it's a very entertaining baseball film.
Wasn't this called Mr. 3000 at one point?
No, that's the Bernie Mac film that you're referencing, Mr. 3000.
You're thinking of Pitch.
Mr. Baseball, yeah, that's another.
Pitch I liked.
We'll get into Pitch another show. A little bit confusing because Dennis Haysbert, the voice of Allstate, played Pedro Serrano in a great baseball film, Major League, in the Major League franchise, and he also appears in this one.
I love the
as
promotion.
an American member of the team in Japan, which can be a little bit confusing considering these movies are like 2 years apart, and he's playing a baseball player in both of those
He's the
movies.
biggest
Can I
thing to
comment
hit
one by one?
Japan
Yes,
since
one by
Godzilla.
one.
as
We
the
want you to
promotion.
One by one. If I've got 90 minutes for Tom Selleck, it's either a Magnum PI marathon or a Friend. That's the last of Tom Selleck's relatives.
No 3 Men and a Baby?
Yeah, that's
Okay, yeah.
that's also 20 years ago. 25.
That's
Mustache Hall of Fame.
so good. I will say this about the what moves this down the list for me. I hate forced romantic storylines in a movie, and this is one of the worst forced romantic storyline with the young Japanese woman that works for the team. That I swear there was no build-up to their relationship. Like, they see each other at the ballpark, and the next scene they're in a tub together at one point talking about like all of his problems in life. And I'm like, boy, that really sped
It's
up.
one of the worst, he just said, I'm quoting him, it's one of the worst forced romantic storylines ever. And it's top 5
Top
for him.
5 rewatchable.
Great bad sports movies. Number 4 on the list.
Number 4.
Jacob Swanson. We'll pull it up right now. Little Big League. This version of Little Big League is not the one that I'm referencing. This is an older one. Little Big League that I'm referencing.
There's a remake of this bad film.
I have no clue what the hell that is. I'm going to be completely honest.
your
I didn't know
film.
that. But if you
I think
search,
I think that's a spoof on the actual cover, and that's a father and son that redid the cover of Little Big League. He Googled an image and found like a father-son remake of the poster.
If you search Little Big League, the first thing that pops up is the 1994 American sports family film, Little Big League. And not that. So, and the other thing that pops up is Little Big League, the band. Maybe that could be the name of our in-house band.
Little Big
with
League,
Lance and Jacob.
opening for Dad's Acid.
Yes. Little Big League, look, highly entertaining. Young, I was exactly the age of the boy in the movie when it came out in 1994. I was 12 also. Billy
You remained his
Haywood.
age.
I love that Billy Haywood, at one point when he gets full of himself as the manager, the premise is simple. His grandfather passes away, gives the team to him. He takes over as owner, then eventually manager. When he refers to himself in the third person as Bill Haywood, a Bill Haywood would not do something like that. I was jealous because he churched up the name Billy, and my name was Chad, and there's no churching up Chad unless I called myself Chadwick, which would have been very odd. Paul, your thoughts?
I like this film very much, but there's a very important caveat. I have an 11-year-old son, and I watch it with him because it's a children's film.
It is. It can be enjoyed by adults too. There was the
With
grown-up,
their children.
the Timothy Busfield storyline.
You're missing the point of watching it as an 11-year-old and growing up with it and watching it on replay on VHS.
With your 11-year-old.
And no, I didn't watch it with my father. I watched it on VHS to burn time.
Yeah, me too.
And that was so. There's a sentimental value with movies like this that
I'll
make
agree,
it rewatchable.
but at a certain point, you stop watching.
You mentioned Field of Dreams, Paul.
You become a man.
You mentioned Field of Dreams.
We leave childish things
What's
when
the
we become a man.
what's the common denominator,
you
right?
get to the Jerry Maguire opening scene quickly.
What's the common denominator?
You move on.
By the way, I will admit I watched this film on MLB Network a year ago. It was on a Saturday afternoon, and I watched it start to finish.
Okay.
So did I. And then Simon and I went and had a catch.
Timothy Busfield, star of this, also a co-star in Field of Dreams. So look, greatness.
He was also on
understands
30.
greatness.
He was also on 30-something.
Yes, he was. All right, number 3 on my list
Number
of great
3.
bad sports movies. Paul's favorite, Blue Chips. You know the movie's great when Shaq, as an actor in your movie, appears on the cover of it. This is Nick Nolte at his finest. He delivers a great performance. Not quite Oscar-worthy, although I think the Academy overlooked him that year. I'll say another underrated part about this movie. Ed O'Neill, at the time, was on Married with Children, had not done a lot of film, but he plays the dogged reporter going after Petey Bell, the coach, for his recruiting violations. Blue Chips, very quotable, number 3 on my list.
I've memorized none of these details because, like a normal person, I watched the movie once and I moved on with my life. Shaquille O'Neal, worthy of a spot on another list. Top 5 all-time acting attempts by an athlete.
I'm telling you, though, Butch McRae, who is Penny Hardaway in that movie, one of the worst athlete acting performances of all time.
Well, there's room for 2 of them on the top
Shaq is
5.
much better, and Shaq is not very good. Much better than Penny Hardaway in this movie. Ricky Rowe
Penny would
was the
tell you
best
he
of the
played that
players.
role as written.
Yes.
Shaq is not very good at anything that requires him to be on camera when he's not dribbling or dunking.
He's pretty good
foul
on,
shooting
he's pretty
included.
he's pretty good on Inside the NBA.
I saw Candace
Tony
Parker
flunking
shred him
TV was a
lately.
great storyline also, how they were mad that Tony was flunking his TV class while he was a player
Number
on the team.
2.
Number 2 on my list. This is going to be controversial
Oh, wow.
because I call it a bad movie.
Oh, yeah.
The Mighty Ducks. I watched this
Knuckle
recently
puck.
to get ready for the Mighty Ducks new series on Disney Plus, which I am watching and I'm enjoying. A great family tale.
A definite winner.
I went back and watched this with my wife Angie, and I will say it does not hold up to the level that I thought watching it years ago. It is a bad movie technically. I think the execution of the film is not great. It is entertaining. It's a good underdog story. Emilio Estevez is pretty good in it.
It's hard
I
not
would
to
argue
see-
Emilio Estevez is better now in this remake of it on Disney Plus.
It's also difficult
Doesn't hold up that well.
Well, especially when you know that Mendoza's a meth head now.
That doesn't help. That's true, yes. But just the whole thing it's a little clunky. Like when you go back and watch some of the scenes, it's a little clunky. But still, I think probably in terms of film, maybe the most highly regarded on my list.
Yeah.
But I'm still, Paul, I'm considering it a great bad sports movie. Your thoughts?
Raising my hand. Never seen it. No interest.
Oh.
As Sheens go, I'm a Martin guy, not
Simon
a
picks up
Charlie
hockey,
guy.
he'll be watching it.
Not an Emilio Estevez guy.
Estevez.
Martin. I'm a Martin Sheen guy. Hockey. Not enough space. If I'm watching a movie about sports, I want there to be some room to play.
So you're into fake names, not their given names.
So Emilio Estevez,
Martin
by the
Sheen.
way? Martin
Estevez, their given name.
Well, I don't. This is Charlie Sheen.
No, that's Emilio Estevez.
That's Emilio Estevez.
All right.
His
I
brother.
don't like Estevez or Charlie Sheen. I like Martin Sheen.
That's Emilio Estevez.
But you
his
like
brother.
Major League and Charlie Sheen, right?
Look, he's good sometimes.
If you like Paul, if you like Martin Sheen, watch this new Mighty Ducks show because Emilio Estevez now looks exactly like Martin Sheen, his dad. It is weird.
You know who I
the
like that
movements
looks
are the
like
same,
Martin
the body's
Sheen?
the same, they're exactly the same.
You know who I like that looks like Martin Sheen?
Martin Sheen.
Martin Sheen.
Yes. Paul only watches Apocalypse Now. These are the only types of films that entertains Paul Koharski. Number one on my list. Paul's going to hate it. Everyone else that's watching right now loves it. It's The Program.
We covered this yesterday.
With James
So was
Caan.
was this
Joe Kane, one of the all-time great characters. This film is rich with characters. Steve Latimer, Alvin Mack, Joe Kane, the girlfriend, who I'm blanking on her name, but is incredibly attractive. This film, Omar Epps is Darnell Jefferson.
Yeah.
Ray Griffin, Halle Berry's debut in this movie. Also, great,
He's memorized
great movie.
the cast and the character names of a film from the 80s,
No.
90s, a film from the 90s.
I'm going to
that
say
deserved
92,
one watching
93.
and a deposit. Here's what I'm going to do, because I don't remember it very well at all. I'm going to rewatch it and come back and really discuss whether this deserves the attention that Chad Withrow feels it
What was
deserves.
the series on ESPN that they
Playmakers.
Okay, it's very ESPN would not play this during COVID because the NFL wouldn't want them to play it.
Were
during,
guys laying
during
down
COVID.
in the street in this movie with the trucks flying by?
This was the movie that they cut that scene from theaters.
Yeah.
Because
Because
someone
kids
tried
were
it and died.
imitating
Yeah.
Well, I always like a film that kills people. That's always good.
Well, that's practically. I mean,
By the
Mighty
way,
Ducks didn't get anyone
Paul,
killed.
the film that you
how do you know? You've never seen it.
Paul, the film you appeared in popularized Russian roulette. So congratulations.
Yeah.
People who die from movies, that's
Yeah.
what popularized
But you're not
that.
into films that kill
because that's the
people.
first time it was
War.
filmed on camera.
War is rough.
Yeah. That's the first time it was
So is
filmed
the
on
NFL
camera.
locker room. So are steroids.
Boys, your thoughts on this review?
So are steroids. Hey,
You've
real
paid
quick, though.
closer attention
There
to
was a
this
nostalgia.
segment than any segment
I
ever.
was probably 13 when I watched, or maybe 11 to 13, whenever I watched The Program for the first time. Was this rated R or rated PG-13?
Or X.
Because that mattered at the time that
Yes.
you were watching. If you were watching this,
Well, not for
with
Grandma when you
friends-
watched Jerry Maguire.
Oh, it mattered. I didn't finish Jerry Maguire. I watched someone else finish on screen, and then it was quickly turned off.
Tom Cruise finished, and then Hutton's
then Hunt
viewing
was finished.
Then Hutton's viewing was also finished.
And then Hunt went and finished.
it all
I didn't know what they were doing.
simultaneously. It all came
I didn't know
together.
what they
It
were
all
doing.
came together at once. It went like this. It was like cymbals crashing. Everything finished at once.
I can't remember if it was R or PG-13, but if it's not R, they raised.
R. It's
Okay.
R.
They raised the standard.
That there was you knew you were watching something a little bit better than a kid's film when you watch the program.
Can we
so
get
it made it better.
Can we get a quick review of this segment from production, please?
Yes.
Yeah, how many of these movies have you guys seen?
I've seen Mr. Baseball and The Mighty Ducks. Mr. Baseball is my favorite.
Well, I mentioned Mr. Baseball, and Lance immediately said, Tom Selleck? That's the Tom Selleck film? I said, yes, it is.
Jacob,
I've only seen the Mighty Ducks.
I would have predicted that. Do you
He's from
find it to
Minnesota.
be
He's from
worthy
Minnesota.
of any
Of course
top
he's seen it.
5 lists?
No.
Where do you stand on the Estevez family?
He's an Emilio guy.
Tiger Blood.
Yeah.
Chad, well done.
Did Charlie Sheen
that was
beat
fun.
AIDS? Didn't he have? Wasn't that
He's the
reported?
Magic Johnson of actors.
No, he's HIV positive.
But it hasn't advanced, right? It's
Yeah.
kind of like Magic
HIV
Johnson.
positive, but not AIDS.
Yeah.
It's a very odd way to finish out this segment, but
Really brought it
I
down.
just really wanted to throw that out there.
I think that was a good segment. I enjoyed
I mean,
it.
I'm applauding him. Like it's good. This is good news.
Well, his doctors you should applaud maybe as well.
This is good news.
The
So
pharmaceutical
once again,
company.
my great bad sports movies. Number 5, Mr. Baseball. Number 4, Little Big League. 3, Blue Chips. 2, The Mighty Ducks. Number 1, The Program.
So do I watch the program tonight or For All Mankind?
You need to watch the program so you can come back and give us a review.
All right, what's my over-under on the money for that? If it's over 15, I'm not watching it.
No, it won't be. It'll be $2.99.
gosh. Yeah, it's probably,
be $2.99.
it's probably free.
They should
at
pay me.
It's probably in a bundle in Amazon's free movies right now. You can find it. I'll find out right now, Paul.
Let us know what you think
That was
on
fun.
Twitter at OutKick360. The show rolls on across the OutKick network. Hang with us. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. Glad you are with us wherever you're tuned in, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Rumble. We're everywhere. You can find us on podcasts, literally wherever you download your podcast. If you're using an Amazon device, ask Alexa to search OutKick on YouTube. You can find the show. We hope you'll subscribe. Ring that bell, alert to yourself every time we go live at noon Eastern. Claire sends me a text that says on the YouTube chat, people are losing their damn minds in this YouTube chat. I don't know if David is available for comment on this or not, or if there are so many chats about OutKick selling out to Fox that David is no longer needed in this chat to comment on our fashion
He came in for 3 days, commented on fashion, boom, 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 went down the road and then disappeared.
You like how me and Paul perked up when we heard that it was a dumpster fire? We're like, whoa, really? What's going on? We like that. That's the type of stuff we like on this show. David Reed had a great quote, and I don't know who he's talking about, but he said someone in the message board and what they were saying lacked so much intelligence that he doesn't know how to address them. That the statements were so dumb that he didn't even know how to address the person, which I thought was a fantastic quote. Reed will give it to us during the break, and we'll actually tweet out the quote from Reed. It was great.
And we are thrilled about the Fox acquisition news. We gave our thoughts on that to begin today's show. If you're rewatching the second half of the show, if you're on the podcast, you can go hear our thoughts and, of course, read Clay's column, OutKick.com, for details. We're going to get into the Tennessee Power Hour here, and then we'll transition into the Predators in just a moment. And there's some Titans headlines and some other things to discuss this hour. But I want to start with the fight night at MSG last night, where there were 6 separate fights to start the hockey game between the Capitals and the Rangers. And it bears mention because we just don't see this as often as we used to, but the start of the game with the full line brawl, which we're going to play a bit of, Capitals defeated the Rangers 4-2, but this will be remembered as the fight night, where you had 141 penalty minutes in the game, 72 penalty minutes in the first 4 minutes of the game. And the refs, Claire and I, before Cinco de Mayo, went out to dinner last night, and every time we looked up at the TV screen, there was a fight. And I thought they were just replaying the same fight, and with just different angles.
Oh, no.
And then I realized, those are 2 different players. This is how they started the game. We're 7 seconds in, and there have been 2 fights. And then they showed the penalty box, where everybody's in the box.
Had to open an auditorium.
So here would be my question about this. Because the league doesn't like it. Like, we like it because it's this huge brawl to start everything, and it's great. You know, fans love to see crazy stuff like that happen.
This was so preventable if this had been managed correctly. And the thing that I take from it the most is that the Rangers came out and called for the head of the disciplinary czar at the NFL offices. I love this. So many teams, including, frankly, the professional football team in this town, cower to the league office and would never do this. And listen, it was a previous administration, but this is the example I draw. The Titans, several years ago, when Rustin Webster was the GM, and there was an officiating controversy involving the Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And that official that blew that call was taken off a national game, and he was given to a Titans game, Titans-Jaguars game.
Titans-Jags. He was demoted. He was demoted from a primetime game the following week
to the worst game of the week.
To the worst game of the week.
And I wrote and said on our show, how could the Titans not voice a complaint about this? And they should have done what the Rangers did here and came out and said, this is unacceptable. You're treating us like second-class citizens, and if this official's not good enough to officiate Seattle's game or the big game of the week that he has this week, he's not good enough to officiate our game. The Titans would never, ever do anything. Oh, no, the NFL, we can't say anything. I don't even think they said anything behind the scenes. But here the Rangers come out and they say this is a dereliction of duty. And he is unfit to hold this job. And they said consequences be damned for what the league has to say about us. And, if they suffer a consequence, he got fined $5,000, which is, by the way, the maximum fine in the NHL, which is also ridiculous. And then they went out and took justice into their own hands because they were left with no choice. And quite frankly, he didn't get beat up enough. He can't get beat up enough because he's the strongest, biggest guy out there. And you don't have anybody that can beat him up.
I love the honesty in the statement. Here's the problem, though. They got fired after releasing that statement. So fans of like us of honesty and coming out and saying it as an organization, you're not going to be fans of the result because now that's really not going to happen anymore because the guys who were behind that statement got fired immediately after that.
Well, James Dolan said he fired them because the team sucked and they were underperforming.
They were going to get fired.
They were getting fired anyway.
But the timing looks bad. You know who's new in charge there?
I think that the statement had something to do with it also.
You know who's in charge there now?
Now?
Chris Drury. Remember Chris Drury, the Little League World Series hero that then played for the Avalanche? And
the Preds lose last night, keeping tabs on their playoff hopes. Dallas also loses, so had the Preds won in regulation, they would be guaranteed a playoff spot as we sit here today, the fourth playoff spot. They have 2 games remaining, and with the way Dallas is playing, the Preds are going to get in. They play Saturday against Carolina, Monday against Carolina. Dallas is at Tampa Bay tomorrow, and then they have 2 games against Chicago. The likelihood that the Stars are going to somehow surpass the Preds is very low. But the Preds control everything. They can clinch with a Dallas loss tomorrow, for instance, without even playing. But the Preds with an opportunity to clinch at home against Carolina with their final 2 games to play. And we could see Preds and Carolina for now 9 straight games. If Carolina, which they should, lock up the 1 seed, we could see this matchup if the playoff series goes 7, we could see a lot of the Hurricanes coming up.
That they're losing a game like they lost last night, that they're giving up a 3-goal lead in the 3rd period the other night, does very little to change my thinking about their first-round playoff fate, which is the conversation that we're shifting into here with their qualification inevitable. And I think last night's result screws us out of a Pekka Rinne swan song Saturday night, which I was kind of getting sentimental out.
But I mean that's the weekend matchup sucks.
Yeah, Saturday night, big.
Saturday, Carolina home, Monday in Raleigh. Right.
So I was thinking a Saturday night at home farewell game for Pekka.
The other thing is, last night, just keeping tabs on the Preds a bit, they didn't have that same full energy, and that's and I'm not knocking their effort. I'm not trying to insinuate that they just laid down. They didn't do that. I just didn't see that same spark. And part of that is UC Saros allowed some goals that were not terrible, but we didn't have the saves last night where you think, oh, what a save by Saros. Like, that's what we're going to have to see from Saros in the postseason, where if he allows what I would call a good goal, where it's not on him, it's also just great offense, right? He's got to play great, solid goaltending night in and night out, and he just can't be good. He's got to play great, and that's the standard that he's set over the last 23, 24 games. That's what's going to carry the Preds, and that's why if you want to buy in and have faith on some 2-1, 3-1 victories in the postseason, that's the argument you would make, and that's what we didn't see last night as an example.
The go-ahead goal was a deflection, but it was a deflection not right in front of the goal. Do we think he could have, should have adjusted to that, made a play on it? I didn't think so.
I think Hutton summed it up well. He was okay, just wasn't otherworldly. And this Preds team is just not good enough for him to be just okay. He's got to be great to have.
They should be.
I'm saying to win a series. I'm saying
that's
the
now
consistency.
Carolina's the opposition.
They might not win
Columbus.
a series against Carolina even with him great.
Dallas, meanwhile, has just lost steam. I mean, I think they were going to finish by playing 44 games in 77 days. I think I have that correct. And ultimately, looking back on the season, the Preds' turn started around the same time that Dallas went through that winter storm and where they had to shut down.
Yeah.
And that storm may ultimately be something that is undervalued
in the Preds
as to why the Preds started down the path and why the Dallas lost steam right now, because they've had to play so often to try to keep up and keep pace with what else is going on around them in the standings. Preds should get in. That's ultimately what we're going to see, and that is a victory in and of itself compared to where they were just weeks before we started this show. It wasn't like it was. I said yesterday, and I was wrong. I said New Year's Eve, turn of the year, compared to where they were. I'm talking like now. Look, February, where they were in February, to where they are right now is remarkable.
Well, and we've seen even in the early days of the Preds, they get in as the 8th seed and win 2 games against Detroit. I remember that was their first playoff series ever.
Chicago too.
Yeah, there's been times where they would win a couple games. Get in there and win a couple games, right? Like getting in the playoffs is a win. Winning the series is far-fetched at this point to me, but would be huge for this franchise. But don't go in and get swept. Go in and compete, steal a couple games, make it look good, and I think that's now the goal because I'm with you, Hutton. They're going to get in.
Titans roster moves when we return on OutKick 360. One of the many things in the OutKick 360 background here at Blackbird Studio is a tribute to Sergeant First Class Nick Moses, who served in the 5th Special Forces Group out of Fort Campbell. He had been deployed 3 previous times to Iraq and was a member of Operation Enduring Freedom, headed for his 4th deployment in Afghanistan, and as he was starting his 4th deployment, was killed on March the 15th, 2012. We started the show March 15th, 2021, and friends of Nick's asked us to display Nick is Here each day during the show. We do this proudly. This is a tribute to Nick Moses and to everyone who has served, will serve, or is currently serving in the United States Special Forces, the Army, the Marine, the Navy, Air Force, wherever you may be. Thank you deeply from all of us. We truly appreciate all you're doing for our country. OutKick 360 across the OutKick network. I'd like to give a shout out to Ronald Acuna. Chad, do you know his stats over the last 162 games played by Acuna?
He's an MVP. That's his stats right now.
I saw this today, and I did a double take. He has 100. He scored 159 runs in his last 162 games.
That's outrageous.
50 home runs, 40 stolen bases in his last 162 games.
And he is
props Ronald Acuna.
He is locked up for the Braves for 8 years.
Basically took advantage of him.
The most team-friendly deal I've ever seen. And Ozzie Albies locked up the same way. I mean, Ozzie Albies is a good player. He's not Ronald Acuna, but still.
I could expand on the ways that you took advantage of him, but it's clear that you took
You got a problem with that? The organization getting a good deal with a player?
Well, it's not a good deal. It's a
great deal for the Braves. I'm more concerned with the Braves.
Deal.
Yeah, he's still going to make a lot of money. I mean, he's just not going to make absurd money like some other guys.
It's abusive.
Abusive is what
abusive
is what Aaron Judge did at the plate yesterday.
Oh dear God! This outside pitch. I don't know if you saw any of these strikeouts. Low and outside strike. He doesn't do anything with his body. He just swings the bat at it, and he can't reach it.
He's like me trying to hit a wiffle ball that's out of the zone.
This giant man can't reach it. Aaron, if you don't move a little with your hips, which I know you probably can't because they're
stiff.
sore.
Very stiff.
But if you don't bend a little at the hips and kind of extend, a lot of guys will do this. Follow me here. They'll flick at that and foul it off. Foul it off or hit it the other way. But if you don't move for that pitch, they're going to keep throwing it. You're going to keep waving at it. You'll have 10 strikeouts and 10 at-bats.
We talked about this in hockey games, especially playoff hockey when you're watching your team. But that feeling of impending doom every time the puck is in the zone and you think every shot's going to score, right?
Every one of them.
Every one of them looks like it's going to the back of the net every single time. That's the way I feel watching Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton just from a size standpoint. And how hard they swing.
Now, Stanton,
every single pitch and swing, I think, is going into the left field bleachers.
Now Stanton
the way
right now
swing.
is swinging like that. I mean, he is swinging
amazing.
perfect. No wasted motion,
but also
battering the ball.
But also how dumb those guys can look on certain pitches because of how big they are and the way they swing. Sometimes they're just way off.
The Titans have added 3 players, but they actually cut another player on their roster. Let's start with who they waived, Kareem Orr, who has been on and off the roster for going on 3 years now?
Yeah, I think 3 years. I went back and retweeted a story I did about their seeming willingness, I wrote this April 2nd, to kind of churn some of these guys that they've held on to too long, Matt Dickerson being the chief example. Now Kareem Orr falls into that. But one of the guys they bring back is Greg Maben, a name that'll live in infamy in Nashville because he was patient zero for all that we know. All indications lead to him being patient zero for their COVID outbreak. Their COVID outbreak. Inside joke. Catch us in the MVP VIP session, and we'll tell you about that.
I'm talking to you on Sunday night.
Yeah, he was patient zero in the big COVID outbreak. And Brian Hill, running back from Atlanta, that had some success.
Okay.
They don't have depth at running back, just in terms of bodies.
So you're talking about churning the back end of the roster and players that have been here for a while. When they signed Brian Hill yesterday, I thought, okay, speaking of that idea, this is competition for Jeremy McNichols as much as anyone else. Like 100 carries, Brian Hill, I'm saying. 100 carries
last year. Am I the only one that thinks about former Magic head coach Brian Hill every time I say Brian Hill? I'm seeing Brian Hill of those 90s era Shaq and Penny Magic teams.
Yeah. 3D Scott.
Does Dennis Scott show up with him? Is Nick Anderson hanging around the Titans facility now?
Who was the center? The white center down low?
That Brian Hill had Nick Anderson. This Titans team has Nick Westbrook Acuna.
Yes, number 2.
I'd take Nick Anderson.
I mean, Brian Hill could pose a challenge. I think Jeremy McNichols, if he does what he did last year, should safely win a spot on this roster. But they don't have backs beyond Derrick Henry, Darrington Evans, Jeremy McNichols, and then you have 2 fullbacks.
Right.
So that's not enough to run.
Well, I see it circulate on Twitter. 100 carries. He was used last year in Atlanta. And 500 yards. This is Jeremy McNichols' status. Right. And that's all this is.
And he'd have to, I think, really do something to get ahead of McNichols.
I think so.
And McNichols did some good work last year.
But they
cut
else?
Deontay Foreman last year, or didn't bring him back. Deontay Foreman, who did some good work, I thought, also.
They also add Jay March, a linebacker from Akron, I believe.
Is he undrafted or no? They haven't announced any undrafted, so he's a guy with some experience.
Paul, some good news for you. Scott Richardson, you can interact with us on Twitter anytime during the show, after, at OutKick360. We hear the interaction on the YouTube page is quite frivolous today. Scott Richardson on Twitter says, PK, the program currently free, included with Amazon Prime, free movie night for you.
Hey.
Will you be watching tonight?
Well, since the Yanks are doing their damage now, and we've got 2 strikeouts for Garrett Cole into the second inning, need to pick up the pace a little bit, I will do my best to watch tonight.
Dustin Rush says, no Varsity Blues on my list, to which I say Varsity Blues is a great, great sports movie. It's not a bad movie at all. It is a great film. Hutton, your thoughts?
Varsity Blues is extremely memorable. Again, I like it only because of the era I grew up in.
You were in high school when
yeah.
it came out, much
Yeah.
like I was.
It's extremely memorable,
it was
except for the
relatable.
part where I remember
Right.
nothing about it.
Everybody went to high school with a Billy Bob.
Yes, James Caan in the program, his son Scott Caan was Tweeter.
Oh, yeah.
Look at these
Was
details
Tweeter
that
in
he
Varsity Blues. That's
It's
always, there's always a connection with these great sports
unbelievable,
films.
the details that he knows about
Let's-
these films.
Let's switch gears for a moment back to the national headline, which is Aaron Rodgers, because Adam Schefter was on Dan Patrick earlier this morning, the Dan Patrick show, where he was asked about making the decision. Schefter was asked about making the decision to break the Rodgers news last Thursday on draft day, and about him wanting out. His quote said, that is absolutely accurate, correct, on asked whether he chose to break the story on draft day. Chose to break the story on draft day. It was nothing that morning that came in that all of a sudden said to me, yeah, he wants out, you should report this. It was just an accumulation of information. That from Adam Schefter to Dan Patrick today.
What's that? Accumulation of information.
But he didn't break it.
No, he did.
Okay.
He broke that on Thursday, on draft day.
I didn't know if he was the one who broke it or not.
You know, he did. So we've been discussing why Aaron Rodgers leaked the information on draft day. Schefter is saying it wasn't anything immediate that was leaked. It was an accumulation of information that I decided to go with on draft day because of the news day.
So
That's
this
Schefter
was
playing it up on draft day.
This was, let's call it what it is. This was ESPN making a programming decision.
Yes.
This was not Aaron Rodgers deciding to leak it the day of the draft. This was more, they had the story, they sat on it, they got more pieces to the story, and ESPN probably came
Let's
in and
dress up
said,
the draft.
let's go ahead that afternoon of the draft and put that out there and drive even more eyeballs to the draft.
So I'm gonna continue here, and this
Which is smart.
This is through Pro Football Talk that I'm just going to read from. Schefter explained that after Paul Allen of KFan reported that the 49ers made an offer to the Packers, it became inevitable that the deeper story of Rodgers' discontent was going to come out. So Schefter said, quote, how long until it gets out that Aaron Rodgers wants out of Green Bay? It's going to come out. What does it matter if it comes out now or next week or next month?
Well, again, what matters is it drew more attention to the draft that night because that was the talk of the draft.
Yeah, but he's basically admitting that this Seattle reporter spurred the story. So he knows what's going on. Somebody reports an element of that's pertinent to it, and that accelerates him saying it. That's a natural reporting thing. So yeah, Chad, you're right. If that day wasn't the draft, does he maybe holds it for Sunday morning that week? But something happened that spurred the action. That something happened that spurred his action was the report about the 49ers having had some level of discussion.
And then, of course, we're going back to Schefter's tweet. It was the tweet initially that just broke the internet, where he said reigning MVP Aaron Rodgers is disgruntled with the Green Bay Packers, and he has told some within the organization that he does not want to return to the team. And then, and Schefter's excellent. He put on the end of it, sources told ESPN on Thursday, which is, at the time, today. So you're thinking, oh, wow, here we go. Round one of the draft. How does this affect everything? All eyes on what happens in the first round.
But what it means is he went back and
Double check.
confirmed that stuff. So he is a little misleading with the timing element of that tweet based on what he's telling Dan Patrick today in terms of the timing. There wasn't a timing news peg on that Thursday outside of the report about San Francisco.
Chad, Tennessee football lands Javante Payton. Familiar name to those in the mid-state because he played high school football at Hillsboro, went to Mississippi State, and is now transferring to the University of Tennessee.
Yeah, did some nice things, not eye-popping stats or anything at Mississippi State, but did some nice things while there with that program. And I know that he announced saying it was always coming back home, or it's always had to be home, and going back to Tennessee. Had offers from a bunch of SEC programs. So Josh Heupel has been very strategic with how he's tapped into that transfer portal. Joe Milton, Jawan Mitchell, who is going to start at linebacker and probably be Tennessee's best defensive player at that level, who was the leading tackler at Texas. And now Javante Payton. That's the one area on the team where you look at it and say they've got some decent depth and some good talent at the top at receiver. And now to add Javante Payton to that is a good move. Look, Tennessee needs everything they can get. We hit on this a little bit yesterday. Tennessee doubles the attrition of Penn State after the Sandusky scandal. This was a perfect storm of NCAA violation, firing a coach, and the one-year exemption for the NCAA to go wherever you want and play right away happening all at once. So they had a mass exodus, and they need bodies.
The attrition of
doubles the amount of players in 1 year. Worse than Baylor after the scandal with Art Briles. Worse than Penn State. That's how many players they lost.
Those kids were given free passes.
Penn State was given a free. There were college coaches on their campus recruiting them. The current players on Penn State's team.
That's indicted.
And Bill O'Brien and Penn State held on to more of those players than what's left Tennessee in 1 year. And Tennessee's losing half of their recruiting class. Guys who had just signed, are opting out of their letter of intent to go somewhere else. So it's a bad situation from a depth standpoint. There is some talent. Cade Mays, I think, may be a first-round NFL draft pick on the offensive line, for instance. There's some good talent at the top, but they have no depth.
Am I wrong to – if you prefer Jeremy Pruitt to Josh Heupel to that degree, their staffs, I understand their personal relationships formed over time and stuff, but that sets off some degree of, in my head, that there was more to the offer than the personality. Man, I'm so into Jeremy Pruitt, and now that he's gone, I got to get out.
Or you just
don't know.
Guys? You just don't know the regime that's coming in.
Yeah, but most of the time you give them a chance, right? You hear them out.
Most of the time, if you have to sit out a year, if you leave, right now you don't.
Yeah.
I think this is the lack of any loyalty to a school and a program or even a state for kids from the state is at an all-time low across college athletics.
Right.
And this is the unintended consequences. Sports writers everywhere want to talk about equity and giving the kids what they deserve, and if a coach can leave, a player can leave. And on its face, it sounds great, and it hurts the sport big time. Both are true. This is going to hurt college football. It's going to hurt college basketball. There's going to be more of this. You're never going to get accustomed to a team in college because that team is going to completely turn over the next year at times with transfers leaving and transfers coming in. Tennessee basketball this next year is a classic example. They completely remade their roster. With a number 2 recruiting class and bringing in transfers, completely reshaped their roster. You're going to see more and more of that. Tennessee's getting the bad end of that this year because and you can understand why. The NCAA investigation, they lost a coach, they brought in a new one, completely different system, completely different style. But it's not going to help the sport in the long run. Is it better for the kids to have options? Sure. And I'm all for that. And the name, image, likeness to follow is a good thing for the players to capitalize on their own name and their own image. Sounds great, right? It's not going to be great for the sport in the long run, and it's going to reshape everything in college athletics. And I don't think, if you like college athletics right now, you're not going to like it as much 5 years from now.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360 across the OutKick network, FanDuel.com/OK360, where you can go place some great bets right now. You get up to $1,000 risk-free on your first bet. First-time users, there's the offer. If you strike out on your first bet, you get up to $1,000 back Insight credit for just trying FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel.com/OK360. Chad, you like to say when you see offers like that on the screen?
I don't know why you haven't already taken advantage of it. I mean, if you have a functional brain right now and you're seeing that offer, it's free money. Do it. /OK360. That's the route. Take advantage of it.
Risk-free.
We're signed up at FanDuel already, but if you're not, now's the time. Sarah, our production assistant, did it today. You can do the same.
More coming. OutKick 360 rolls on. Hang with us. OutKick 360, the crew is all here alongside Chad Withrow and Paul Kuharski. I'm Jonathan Hutton. Glad you're with us watching across the entire network of OutKick. Big thanks to Lance Lee, Jacob Swanson, Becca Risley, David Reed, Sleepy Danny, the entire cast doing a great job for us today. And shout out to Sarah Triplett making her debut as the production assistant, day number 1 with the show. Albert Pujols no longer with the Angels.
They are releasing him today. I'm looking at his 10 years. This is the 10th year of his 10-year deal with the Angels. Best season there. He had over 100 RBIs 4 times. Home runs maxed out 40. Another 2 seasons over 30, 2 seasons of 23. I mean, they didn't get their money's worth out of him, right? He dropped off the table in a lot of ways. And the last 4 seasons of this deal, 2 20 home run seasons. Last year, 8. This year, he's done nothing.
It sounds terrible to say and put it this way, but you say that they didn't get their money's worth. The league did not get their money's worth from Albert Pujols either, because he went to the West Coast.
Yes.
And he wasn't playing on the East Coast on a nightly basis like he was when he was with St.
But
Louis.
this is how it works. Basically, you have to sign a guy to a 10-year deal to get that kind of guy.
Unless you're the Braves.
And basically,
Braves are crack the code,
well,
baby.
when he gets to free agency, though, like you've done a great job with those 2 deals we talked about. But when Acuna gets to the end of that, his next deal with whoever it is going to have to be this monster kind of deal. And the thing with that is you're basically accepting that the last 4 years of that deal are going to be bad. You buy the first 6 years of that at the cost of the last 4 years of it not being good. That's baseball today. And Pujols, over the last 4 years, has hit 10, 20, 30 home runs over 4 years instead of 30 home runs over 1 year.
Over 1.
Paul, you brought up an interesting point made by Andrew Marchand in regards to the Aaron Rodgers reporting and Adam Schefter. And we're in the Tennessee Power Hour, so you can relate this to recent reporting by you and some of the responses you get from fans.
Yeah, Marchand said basically, and this is true, like as soon as Schefter tries to explain any of the intricacies of that story, it's over for him because it starts with unnamed sources, and as soon as you're trying to explain anything and there's something that you can't say, there's at least something that you can't say, there's usually a lot of things that you can't say, and when you can't say those things, then people see holes in your explanation, and when they see holes in your explanation, they're like, he's full of it, he's making it up, there's too many holes in this, and you can't win. So discussing it is really rather fruitless. Now, you're going to punch holes in Adam Schefter's reporting resume and his sourcing and stuff? You shouldn't. But that's where you end up if you go down that rabbit hole that Schefter allowed Dan Patrick to open up, where you're better off just saying, you know what, I can't get into it. And I had that with the thing about the scouts. We had people ask, scouts talking about knowing about Rashad Weaver being in trouble. So people were like, there's no way that they could have known about Rashad Weaver being in trouble because the report wasn't filed until the Friday before and it didn't go public until the Monday after. Well, I didn't say that they knew about the reports. I said that they knew something was up with him. And yeah, a good scout in a conversation with Rashad Weaver the week before can press him and find out that, late night bar, there was something, that he says is really nothing, but then the scout could investigate. But people don't want to hear that. And so on my Facebook page, they're coming after me. I said, listen, my reporting record is known on here. I've been at it a long time. I've got sources around the league. People in town are knocking me. Well, they don't have sources around the league, I guarantee you. They're mostly young. They've covered the Titans. The people that they know who aren't with the Titans anymore are Arthur Smith. I covered 4 teams in the league for 5 years, and those people have multiplied and gone on and stuff. If you don't want to believe me, that's fine. Don't come to my Facebook page and bitch me out. Just go away. I'm here. I'm a Hall of Fame voter. If you don't believe in my credentials, that's fine. But don't come here and hound me. Just go somewhere else where you like that all they know is Arthur Smith.
Well, and
that's fine.
Something that annoyed me yesterday was someone that kept tweeting OutKick 360 and said, well, give us the team that the person works for in their name. And then when I think I responded and said, well, that's not how sourcing works. That's not going to happen. And then the response is, oh, interesting that you're not going to give the team. That's very convenient that the team isn't going to be revealed that knew about it. And I'm thinking, come on. And I'm sure you got some of that too.
I mean, do you want to know the information or not? Because the trade-off is somebody will share things with me in exchange for anonymity because they're not allowed to talk. Their team doesn't want them talking.
Also, the anonymity doesn't affect this particular story in any way.
Well, they have no incentive to lie. This idea that they're covering their ass, well, if you're covering your ass anonymously, how does it make your team look good?
Or bad?
I'm not saying who your team is.
Well, so this has kind of become an extension of primary complaint.
Because two of the scouts told you they didn't know, right? Does it make them look bad in the public eye?
This is what I want to get to. This is what I want to get to because this is my extension of primary complaint from yesterday about what I keep seeing. And Paul, you do a good job of telling people to read Read the story if the story's out there. The amount of people who asked, well, 3 out of 32, that's not a bad percentage for the Titans. And I'm thinking, it's 3 out of 5. What do you mean 3 out of 5? Or, well, 2 people didn't know. Read the story, or at least admit.
3 people didn't know because we're
I didn't read
Titans.
it. If you're talking to someone on the phone and they're telling you about something, I didn't read the full story. If you preface with that and say, so what was involved in this, that's fine. But the amount of people who just jump to a conclusion based on a headline or make inferences about something not knowing what's in it, it's just baffling to me. Who can't just read. I mean, it wasn't that long of a story. We're not asking you to sit there for 45 minutes and read a New Yorker profile. This is not a long story. You can read the story.
Yeah.
Well, the assumption that other scouts would just say that after the draft to look better when their name's not attached to it.
If these people are bothering to either answer a text from me or take a phone call.
But I'm thinking, Paul,
why are they bothering to lie?
So which 2 look bad now? Like, how do we know?
Who looks good and who looks bad?
For the 2 that said they didn't know, and we know the Titans didn't. But of the other 2, tell me who those were.
If everyone, a question for people who say this: if everyone lied about it, why the hell would the 2 people who said they also didn't know anything about it would admit to not knowing about it?
Right.
Wouldn't everybody just say, "Of course I knew about it. I have contacts on the streets in Pittsburgh. I guys walking the streets constantly. Of course I knew."
Let's think this through. Who looks good?
I know the manager of that bar he was at, in fact. I called the guy the next morning and knew something was up.
Let's think this through. Who looks good and who looks bad now? Okay, we have no answers for that. But let's think this through.
We know who looks bad, the Titans.
Right. Who in Nashville, Tennessee would like for the 3 scouts who said they knew to be lying? Who? And who are those people that would have the phone numbers of all the people in town who are saying those people are lying? Who? Oh, people with thumbtack logo.
The flaming thumbtacks.
I mean, look, I told you when we left our old outlet that the fingerprints of the Titans were going to be more omnipresent. More omnipresent is not the right word, maybe. More present on that outlet. And I think you've heard it the last few days because it's become more than one host over there has taken this tact, which tells me they got the same text from the same person at Baptist or Ascension Sports Park.
it's not
whatever
St.
the
Thomas
hell it's
anymore.
called.
Hospital Sports Park.
Hospital Sports Park over at Metro Center that they don't like.
We're looking live on Healthcare Name Sports Park. Just place one here.
But I could tell you that the Titans believe that other teams knew. I can tell you that.
That's a good bit of info.
Now, why would they say that to look foolish? They wouldn't. Right?
That's what I could tell.
They wouldn't. They would just be honest about it, and they've already admitted they didn't know in the statement that they sent out on Monday morning. Guys, as we wrap up, I want to know how many punches you could take in training if you were Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury training for a fight with Anthony Joshua and posted this on his Instagram account this morning in his training to prepare his core.
Is that the way to prepare your core?
This is insane to me that he sits there and then smiles and just stands there and takes it. If you're fighting Tyson Fury and you see this, what are you thinking to yourself?
I'm thinking I got into the wrong line of work is what I'm thinking. I mean, the soreness that would follow this if I were taking repeated shots to the rib cage.
Think about just like the layer of skin beneath the outer lining of his core, like his torso, like the callus that must be. You know what I mean?
I mean, is there not a...
it's a different breed, that guy.
Well, this is not just a mental thing. Is there not internal bleeding that follows this? I mean, this is not prudent.
I mean, this is his training. I would take one punch and be on the ground.
I'd be doubled over immediately, gasping for air.
My spleen would not be inside my torso anymore.
I'd urinating blood. When's the fight?
I'd be former Titans quarterback Billy Volek in a hospital with the spleen issue after getting hit, after one hit.
I mean, the fight can't be soon. You can't be doing this close to the fight.
You know what I like about Tyson Fury? There's a little bit of mystery that he may be completely insane.
Oh, he is insane.
But I mean, I like that bit of tension that this guy might actually be crazy.
I don't know if they've announced it yet.
All right.
Remember was it Deontay Wilder when he was like licking the blood off of him or licking the
Yeah,
sweat.
that was his last fight.
Yeah, but that moment where I'm thinking, this guy may legitimately be insane.
Well,
and
you've
I
got to
like
be
that
a
in
little
my fighters.
crazy to be in the fight game.
For sure. But he may be even going a little bit further than that. with
I'm not
his
seeing that and
insanity.
being like, oh, I'm into that guy. I'm seeing that and being like, I'm out on this guy.
I'm not into the guys, like, I'm not a fan of the fighter, but I'm a fan of watching that. If two people are going to fight, that's what I'm a fan of.
Meanwhile,
I'm out.
Jakob and Lance can stand
Jakob
there and
has
take
some
it.
thoughts.
I think it's unfair that he seems to be injecting Botox around his gut.
Hit us up on Twitter at OutKick360. Again, FanDuel.com/OK360. Sarah, how many strikeouts are we up to? Two.
Just
Two in the
two.
third inning? We need bottom of the third. So we did not get any strikeouts
Pick
at
it
the
up.
top of the third. We need to do better, Paul. We must do better on 8.5 strikeouts if we're going to win this bet.
Boys, never follow me on a bet.
We went all in together.
Oh, great. As I sign off here, great suggestion for a great bad sports movie
Yes.
that Paul Baumer on Twitter suggested. Necessary Roughness, also from the same era.
Paul, your thoughts?
Texas State, the Texas State fighting armadillos. Great one.
Paul's going to go home. He's going to watch
gonna
the
sleep.
program, ad-free.
I gotta watch the
after
rest of
after
this
a nice
Yankees
long
game.
nap.
Paul's going to go home, fall asleep.
In front of the
nap.
Yankees game.
Nice nap. Then he's going to wake up and watch the program ad-free on which device?
Amazon Prime.
Amazon Prime. He will then bring that review. But prior to him sitting down to watch the ad-free program, he will do what with the front door?
I'm going to lock the hell out of the front door and the back door and the garage door. If you're tripping out on acid tonight, you're looking for a house to come into, don't come near
Jacob.
mine. Everything is secure. And I would urge all of you out there to also lock your locks. And while you're driving to that house, before you get inside to lock it, don't block any boxes.
Bang, bang.
Don't step on that.